real quickly before we jump into the video, I want to let you guys know something we're doing over on my Twitter account. A couple of months ago, we ended up teaming up with Elgato Gaming in a partner capacity, but now we're doing our first little giveaway here as a part of that, and so we're giving away an HD60S capture card device for those that enter. Now, this is something whether you're a new creator, somebody just getting into it, or somebody that's been in the game for quite some time, Elgato makes the best quality capture cards for any gaming or any capture devices that you may need. So this is a perfect opportunity to try and snag one for absolutely no cost whatsoever. So if you guys want to enter that link will be down there in the description below to take you to that Twitter post over there. There's very little rules with it, but that's where we're hosting it, kind of on that Twitter space, not necessarily here on the channel. So if you guys are interested, once again, link is down there in the description below for you guys to go check it out. But with all that said, best of luck to anybody that enters. But let's jump right into the regularly scheduled content. We just crossed the 6-month mark for Call of Duty World War II and how long it has been out. Half a year we have had World War II in our hands, and if you want to get technical, 6 months and 3 days later, the game is actually, in my mind, a lot better than what it was at launch. Especially as of recent months, Sledgehammer, I've said many times, has done a fantastic job of turning around the community involvement and directly relaying that into how the game itself will play, and therefore making it a little bit better for the fans themselves and their enjoyment factor. But when we take a look at everything like this, there's still some things that we may or may not be consciously aware of that are completely missing from the game that have either been talked about in an official capacity or some things that have been leaked out we thought may have come at some point but have yet to come up until now. So today we're going to be taking a look at 7 different things within Call of Duty World War II that are still missing in one way or another in Call of Duty World War II. So again, some of these things in a very official capacity, some things being talked about as being investigated but no action has been done yet at the moment for those, and some things that are found in the game code but have yet to actually come to any sort of public capacity. So kick back, grab your popcorn or whatever you want, and feel free to question, where did these things ever go? So first up, let's talk about something that was actually very prominent in the eyes of what wanted to happen at the very launch of the game. But if you guys remember, the launch of World War II was very much so plagued with connectivity issues and other things alike that really just did not allow the game to go as fluently as the developers had hoped, and as well probably as we, as the fans and community, had hoped as well. We ended up seeing a lot of things where the headquarters was a social space that was a little bit too stressful for the servers at the time. Then we ended up seeing that taken offline. We ended up going peer-to-peer and all kinds of different things that eventually we ended up seeing it all instated back in a proper format, but it really threw off a lot of different things. One big thing being that we actually didn't see the introduction of COD points into World War II until a later point because they actually took the priority of trying to fix the game itself rather than adding content that was scheduled in probably for months before the launch even happened. So even in that capacity, some things were pushed off, but one thing that also got pushed off was the flak gun event. Now, this is something that you might think to yourself, why are you leading off with something that never came to World War II, or where are those at, when I myself may have actually experienced one? Well, if you did, you're still in the minority a little bit here, because it was rolled out a couple of months back in a capacity that people in various different regions got the ability to see it in action very briefly. It was something that was never added in, though, at a top-down level in every single headquarters, and I myself have personally never experienced a flak gun event in World War II, and I know that a lot of other people have not done so either. So at the current point, we are still missing the flak gun events overall from the top-down level for every single headquarters. That was something that was supposed to happen every 30 minutes to every hour, and we've yet to really see that implemented on every single occasion. Only spotty situations here and there that, to me, I still wonder where this is going and if we'll ever get it at all at this point. So that's one thing to keep your eyes out for, and hopefully we can end up getting some clarity on that within the next coming weeks to months or so within World War II, because while it wasn't anything absolutely massive in the sense of rewards, it was still a fun little thing to get people to participate in the headquarters, and that was something that a lot of people just went AFK before that. So it was nice to see a little bit of that community interaction and working together for one common goal, also while getting a little bit rewarded on top of that. The next thing I want to talk about deals with something that is a little bit more minute, but one that I'm sure that you can probably relate to on some level or another. That being the idea of a prestige unlock token warning in World War II. So if you're like me at all, you probably don't even realize that you've had a prestige unlock token, because chances are your number will either say 0 or 1, even though you've prestiged multiple different times, and you always wonder where that ended up going. Now, to me, that was something that I somehow always ended up, instead of just unlocking something with an unlock token, I always ended up accidentally doing a prestige unlock token. So I'd never have one whenever I actually wanted to use it. And as of the February 9th community update, we ended up seeing Sledgehammer actually address this head on, saying that it was something that a lot of people did have that same issue where it was just an accidental misclick that would cost them that permanent unlock token that does take a bit of time to actually obtain. So they ended up saying they were looking to implement a little bit of a second chance type of thing with this, where it was almost as if you were entering Prestige, where you had to confirm twice that you wanted to use it, so that instead of just having to jump in and it only asks you once and you might not necessarily even notice that you were hovering over your Prestige unlock token, it had to ask you again to make sure that you knew what you were doing. So therefore, you would not have the opportunity to accidentally waste one, and that was something that myself and a lot of other people, it was a small gesture, but it was something that was honestly a great addition to the game that we didn't even know that we wanted. That was something that, again, from February 9th, we ended up having that mentioned, and to this day, we still don't have it. I remember as of the last update that started the Blitzkrieg event, I was thinking that was the next major real title update that we had since the Resistance event, and that wasn't implemented and then, so I figured, you know what, maybe we give it a shot, and sure enough, it was not there at that point. So maybe we end up seeing it with a title update that takes the Blitzkrieg events offline or the next event, but still 6 months later and a couple of months after even being mentioned, we have no real sign of it. The next thing I want to talk about deals a little bit with something that has kind of happened, but not really. Because from the February 16th community update that Sledgehammer gave us the week after that Prestige Unlock token, they ended up talking about the idea of discussing and formulating a new Scorestreak Changes. Because a lot of people thought that Scorestreaks were relatively underpowered. Some thought that maybe others were not necessarily where they should have been in terms of what their price point was and what they actually did. So there were some adjustments that were brought up in the community, and Sledgehammer was kind of receptive to it. However, since then, once again, February 16th, the only real update that we've seen to the actual buffs or nerfs of Scorestreaks are the paratroopers, in which they got a slight IQ buff, as I like to put it, because they don't necessarily go out with shovels and serrated anymore, and they don't necessarily try and shoot down aerial streaks. They instead try and go for the kills, which is what you probably want them to do anyway. Now, yes, the introduction of Blitzkrieg has actually given us the ability to take a 4th streak, but also a bonus of streaks being improved, and so therefore you'll see things like the ball turret gunner lasting longer with Blitzkrieg compared to the standard base ball turret gunner. But at the most basic core of the Scorestreaks themselves, they were not either buffed or nerfed like this discussion ended up bringing into question. So therefore, you have to use something to get a little bit more powerful streaks, but tweaks to the Scorestreaks themselves were not necessarily made on a top-down level, excluding that one thing that you have to use explicitly for that. So in my books, again, still some Scorestreaks could be tuned here and there. That's something that maybe we end up seeing again that just continues on a little bit further, but your guess is as good as mine. But from that February 16th posting, once again, we didn't really see all that much clarity outside of it. We never saw that there was an official statement saying, hey, Blitzkrieg is our official rework of how Scorestreaks will work. Nothing like that. So to me, while they do have some area improved, it's not exactly what we were looking for. It's almost like the path diverts into 2 different roads rather than continuing on the one in the focus of Scorestreak adjustments. So you may very well disagree at that point, and that's totally cool. I totally respect that opinion, but just for the sake of what is written out in front of us in that blog update, it doesn't match up one-to-one with what was written. So for that, once again, we'll take that for that reasoning. But moving along, we end up seeing that we haven't really had too much for Master Prestiges. Master Prestige is no doubt a very long awaited goal if you end up going for it from level 1 no prestige up until then. That is a lot of playtime you have to put into the game to become Master Prestige, and then even upwards to level 1000. You essentially play the game twice over at that point, and so there is a lot that has to go into that. And whenever you get there, there's not really all that much that really is rewarding you to keep playing. Once you get to Master Prestige, you don't get anything regarding supply drops every 5 levels like you would normally. You don't get any special unlock tokens. You still do get, of course, though, the regular unlock tokens, which doesn't really make sense because you have everything unlocked at that point in the game. And so it's like, why do I need these? So really, there's nothing really rewarding you to keep going and pushing further. However, as of recently, there was some adjustments and talks about maybe what they can do for not only Master Prestige rewards, but Prestige rewards in general. Personally, I'd like to see some things like a variant unlock token or a DLC weapon unlock token with maybe like every 100 levels or so after Master Prestige. That'd be cool, but it's something that from the very beginning, we thought maybe we'd have a little bit more rewarding Prestiges and players like we saw maybe in Advanced Warfare, like we saw in previous titles, but still we don't have anything to it. Now, while this is something that is relatively newer in the grand scheme of things and something that is probably more so on the horizon than some of the other things that may already be overlooked, it's something that I still wonder, well, where are these? So we'll see in time, I guess, but just for the sake of mentioning, Prestige and Master Prestige rewards are still yet to be found. other than that, another thing that is more so on the newer category of things that have been brought up is domination clarity, because we could have this conversation 20 times over, 100 times over, it'll all point back to the same thing. We started World War II out in E3 where there was 50 points per kill. That was something domination at that expo and that demo was 50 points. Then we moved over into the beta, we saw 50 points, but then the second week of the PlayStation 4 beta, we saw domination get pushed up to 100 points per kill and TDM be pushed up to 100 kills for that kill cap. Now, other than that, that's the only time we saw either of those outside of Domination XL, but we ended up seeing some feedback that Domination was going to be 75 points per kill as sort of a mid-ground between 100 and 50. Now, as for that, yes, we do have the idea of it, but we don't have any clue as to when the official change is going to be made going forward, because that is going to completely determine what Domination is from that launch point to where we are now. That's still something that is missing. We haven't had a stable, accepted location of Domination from the developers and the community coming on that sort of compromise middle ground since the launch. So it'll be nice to see where this actually finally resolves down to and when that resolves, but for the time being, we don't actually know. Now, the penultimate thing I want to mention here at this deals with things that are in the game files, not that have been explicitly stated, and that is the idea of additional divisions. We ended up seeing one being added in, that being the Resistance division with the Resistance event in conjunction with the DLC that launched the week after the event started. But since then, we haven't really seen anything added in on top of that, though there are a handful of other divisions in the game code. So, such things including the Commando Division, the Grenadier Division, the Scout Division, as well as the Artillery Division. Now, previously it seemed like things would be set up for DLC 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an extra of Artillery, where they'd all just line up, but we've passed DLC 2, we haven't seen a second division added in, and so that kind of throws off the entire calendar of events. So, when we can see these, your guess is as good as mine, but again, they've been in there from not necessarily the very beginning of the game code, but they've been in there for quite some time. So, we've seen these things in the game files for a long period now, but not really any other indication of it. So when will we see them? Who knows? Hopefully soon though. The final thing I want to talk about today deals a little bit with weapon contracts, because this is one thing that I know some of you guys are actually very passionate about, because we've seen weapons like the GPMG, like the Sten, like the Volkssturmgewehr, like the Ice Pick, like the MG81, and I think the M38 had one as well, but we've still missed out on a lot of different DLC weapons that have never had weapon contracts. And it seems like some weapons keep getting added in via contracts, even though there are ones we've never really done before, almost as if a rotation that really doesn't have any discernible pattern to it, but we've seen some have 2, sometimes 3 maybe even, before others even get 1 contract. So that's something that, again, 6 months or so after, though probably about 5 months since we saw the actual first DLC weapons added in, about 5 months after, we still have some that are not necessarily right there for everybody to try and earn organically, but instead they have to go through collections and supply drops. It seems like we might have some progress on this with the most recent situation that we have for weapon contracts, in which we seemingly are going through the Winter Siege items and then maybe through the Resistance items next, and then after that maybe the Shamrock and Awe, then maybe we end up seeing the Blitzkrieg event, those weapons added in a couple of months time, but still we might be on the now rotation towards that, but still a long ways away from some of the ones you may be looking for, unfortunately. But that is where we're gonna wrap it up. I want to let you guys know about 7 things here that we still don't really have any indication on, any idea on, or really any final clarity on with some things in Call of Duty World War II that have either been announced officially, some things that have already been in there, taken away, some things that are just in the game files, whatever it may be, we still are missing a handful of things throughout the 6-month lifespan of Call of Duty World War II. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely think the game is fantastic. They're doing great things in the progress of making this as best that it can be, but just for the fun fact of saying, well, where'd these things go? I wanted to bring these up to you guys. So that said, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. Is there anything in particular out of these ones that you're like, wow, I totally forgot about that? I'd love to see those coming. Or is there anything I may have missed that you might already be looking out for in World War II that you can feel free to fill me on down there in the comment section down below. But hopefully you guys did enjoy, and if you guys did, make sure you drop a like down below. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding Call of Duty World War II, anything in particular regarding best class setups, tips, tricks, news, information, updates, all that good stuff. We got you covered here up on the channel, so if any of it interests you, make sure that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. And if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, that's the best place to get connected with me outside of YouTube. Practically live on Twitter, so if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, link is down there in the description below. And finally, if you guys want to follow me over on Instagram as well, trying to get more active over there, so that link is as well in the description below. But all that's it and out of the way. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. Take care and peace.